Hello? 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 You can hear me? I can't hear you. Mm-mm.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes. Yes, I
Okay.
can.
Yeah, look, I hate when stuff happens like last minute. Hold on a second. Um, okay, I hate when stuff happens last minute. So I have a laptop that actually have like the screen thing on it. So I try to
Mm-hmm.
turn it on and it decided to do the update thing. So it's been for the update for hours. Like, yeah, it's gonna do multiple starts, and then I was like, all right, cool. Let me do the old school. Use a laptop that don't have a thing, and I'm using my cell phone for It's dumb. It's really dumb.
Technology is only good when it works. So
Yeah, and so yeah, that was my bad. And I was trying to do something. Yeah, but anyway, it's not gonna stop me from doing what I'm trying to do.
it's
Anyway,
all good.
anyway, how have you been doing? How's your week?
The week is good. I'm great. I just got this new tattoo. Feeling needed some. I was itching for some new ink, so I needed some therapy. And
What
I
type of
just
tattoo did you get?
I got Sailor Moon.
Oh, that's dope.
Yeah, so
Yeah, I'm trashing life and still haven't got a tattoo yet. So not really. It's it's interesting because I'm like the only one that doesn't have tattoo in my family, and I'm not really against it. I just don't know. I haven't got it yet. So
I literally just had this conversation with a mutual friend, and he doesn't have tattoos either. But my dad doesn't have like my mom had one, and I was a late bloomer. I didn't get my first tattoo till I was 28, so I'm only on number 8 right now. So they're not for
yeah.
everybody.
Well, see, my whole thing, it's funny because I had an idea for a tattoo of my grandfather, and I was like, I'm gonna get it, and then I just didn't do it. It's funny because my little brother got it, but I did. But yeah, it's the same way it is for me is smoking. Like I've never smoked yet, and everybody in the grandma. All right, I'm gonna tag you on Facebook because that's kind of my mission because I want to
Okay,
see if I can go live on both.
okay.
Just all right, but anyway, as we kind of move forward, but that's good. You got a tattoo. How does it feel? Like, does it hurt? I know different areas are more
I
sensitive than
mean,
others.
it didn't really hurt as much because of where it's at. See, now when I try to show it like this, it's upside down, so it's gonna be like really weird. um, I think because I was laying down for a while, I think because I'm old, my body just was like gets uncomfortable after a while. But it didn't take long um, at all, actually. And so, and I have a pretty decent tolerance to pain. But this area didn't seem bad at all because I mean I even got my feather here, so I've been my arms from the top down are my canvas, so I don't even think about it.
So, yeah, just want to start out. Thank you for joining me. Can you still hear me, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
I get yeah.
All right. Thank you for joining me, and I really do appreciate it a lot. I have a lot of respect for your perspective, your mind, um, and kind of just your outlook on everything.
Oh,
I know,
thank you.
I, I know it can be tough, um, especially now more than ever, where knowledge and information is. It feels like it's one of the most important things for us to have right now. You know, it's interesting how people say this is common sense, and we learn that no, because I
Oh,
think things would be a lot easier and simpler if it was for others to think and be more savvy in the thought process. Uh, so, kind of start out, your upbringing. How was your upbringing? You and where you were born and things like that.
born and raised right here in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I came from a two-parent household. Um, my parents were high school sweethearts, so they met. They got together in '84, and I came around in '87, and they like married in '96 and stuff like that. So, because we take forever to get married, right?
They say the ghetto married. You know what I'm saying?
They get on married, right? Just take forever. Like, okay. Only child, but no one would ever really know it because I was raised with like my cousins at Granny's house on the weekends. So I had a pretty decent childhood. Like I was very being only child, you had to be very, very imaginative. So I would go into the different rooms and turn things into like take with the laundry basket, flip it over, get a frisbee or something, buy my canopy bed, turn it into a car. So now I got my stuffed animals. I'm dropping them off somewhere. The next room, I done turned it into something or whatever. Like I had to just keep myself entertained. And my parents and brother, they never stopped me until I did something like, mess with the computer, right? Mess it up, and then I don't know how to put it back together, and then we got to figure out how to put it back together. I was that child. Like, oh, let's just see what's inside and how this works. But I have no idea how to put it back. Yeah, so that was me. Um, went to um, like different schools, but I mean advancing. Like I think I started off at Sherman Park, and then I went to Grand Tosa. Got recommended for Golden my year. Then I was there when it was just from third to fifth grade. Morris, and then I went to Riverside or whatever, and then obviously went to Parkside for a little bit, and UWM. But yes, I just always just been a very social person. I guess people would consider me a social butterfly. Um, Always in the mix, just having a good time, doing nothing sometimes. Um, but yeah, I mean, I was just actually talking to a friend of mine about this, that like when kids was going to camps and doing all kind of other stuff like during the summertime, my main memories is like going fishing with my granny. Like we would get up early in the morning and get everything packed, and I was in Pewaukee and Waukesha all day trying to catch like bluegills or something, or bringing my bicycle or something like that. Be there out with her, hanging out with my cousins all day. So, you know, and those memories I cherish. So I had a pretty good, childhood like anybody else. Yeah.
So it's interesting as you talk about your upbringing. Um, a lot of people obviously doesn't matter of a household having one or two parents. Anything can go any way, anyhow, right? I have friends I've met even down here in Houston who grew up mom and dad, and they talk about things they've seen and just try to figure out themselves. But for a lot of people who didn't grow up with those things, and you became friends with those people, and a lot of the assumptions that they probably put upon you, like, oh, like how was you able to um, move and just continue moving forward with stuff like that? Because I can imagine those things probably happen. Like they don't understand it, but they have assumptions because like you've had two parents and you've probably met people who only had one and who had assumptions about your upbringing.
I mean, but my cousins, a lot of their parents, so my parents didn't get divorced until later on in my life. Like before my mom passed, I think they had been divorced maybe 3 years prior to that. So everything, just because I was in a two-parent household, didn't mean that everything was sweet. And I think that's the assumption that, oh, you got two parents in the house, but that's not what it is. Um, I can say this more candidly because we've been working through our stuff. For the first like 17 years, I didn't think, or at least until I like, maybe not the first 17, but until I came to the knowledge of it to like age 17, I didn't think my father liked me. I knew he loved me, but I didn't think he liked me. So when I remember being 10, like trying to have conversations of asking like how to like buy a car or rent an apartment. Like I'm 10. Why do I need to know? Why do I need to know this information? Because I felt that was like what he, wanted to talk about. Um, and I mean, I remember when I got to Parkside, and I think I wrote my dad a 4-page letter, just kind of pouring everything out. Um, and from there on, we had been working on our relationship, and just, I appreciate him more in my adult life. Excuse me. Um, than I did as a child because I didn't know how to talk to him. And my dad is like the coolest of the cool. Like Kenneth is the bomb diggity for shiggity. You know what I'm saying? Like I truly get my personality from him. He is the one that can go into a room and come out with like 5 new friends and lunch plans for next week. And I'm like, how did he do that? But that happens to me often too. So I'm a chip off the old block. Um, and my dad is very practical, and I'm very emotional. We are literally two opposites. And so, but as I've gotten older, I've become more practical. Like, okay, what's the resolve? Are you going to say the same story to 20 other people hoping to get a different answer? Or like, how do we move on from this? And at first I just thought he was an asshole because he's an Aries, and Aries are the nicest assholes you'll ever meet, if you didn't know that. So shout out to all the Aries in your life and my life. the nicest assholes you'll ever meet. So in my mind, I'm like, why is he being an asshole to me? But he really wasn't. So I think that was that assumption growing up, especially with my cousins. Their parents were getting divorced way young. We were younger, so we could be arguing over dolls or some sort of stupid toy, and they'll go, "At least you got both your parents." How do I compete with that? Like that has nothing to do with this stuff, Animal G. I'm just saying, like, if you're done playing with it, put it back. That's all I'm saying. So I didn't get a lot of slack from like peers, meaning like my friends or classmates. I got it more so from like family, my cousins as we were coming up, because they thought that I had it made because of that.
So, um, so you take a lot of, your upbringing, and you get to a time of your life where you have to figure yourself out. Know who you are, your comfortabilities, your interests. So I know there was, Parkside was, going to college becomes something totally different. Because now, you have to invest in your own time and find out who you are and a group should be a part of. I remember you mentioned um, something about some of the programs you've been a part of, and the thing about college is you learn more about yourself if you are ready for some type of leadership or not. Some people naturally have it. Some people have the ability to bring a lot of people together. In the process of Parkside and everything that you've grown being there, when did being a wordsmith come into play?
So I've always been writing. I think my my earliest memories was in a poetry club when I was in the fourth grade, and it wasn't even my teacher. Like the teachers at Golden My Year all taught had like a club or something that they led or whatever during like a certain time. And I remember her name was Miss Carlton, and her class when she would teach poetry. That's how like my first real memory of it. And then middle school, uh, I would write sometimes, and I think high school I written a couple things, but it wasn't until there was a organization on campus called the Black Players Guild, and we used to shout out to BPG and all everybody who was part of it. We used to meet on Monday nights. So like D139 used to be the big the big lecture hall with the piano in it, and then across from that was like D132 or 128 or something, and we would have all three of those rooms. So the one with the piano had the singers. Across from that was the writers, and I think another one was for the dancers. And I actually started with the singers because I was a vocal performance minor. But even before I actually went that route, I mean, I've always sung, and so I was with them. So I was just going to help people build confidence within themselves. So I would take them to the stairway, let them know like you can sing. If I can harmonize with you can sing. And it was just blowing their minds that you can have many interests, Ramone, and you don't have to have a degree for everything. Like you can be poli-sci and still sing or dance or do whatever you want. You don't have to have a certificate or an extra degree and spend all that extra money. It's not that deep. And so at some point, I started drifting towards the writers. I was like, okay, the singers, the vocalists, y'all good. And I started going across the halls to the writers. And I actually used to post a lot of my poems in the notes section, like when it was like completely present. Not that you have to search it now on Facebook. And there was like a website that I was also posting on. And so I just kept writing and writing, and I connected with one of my best friends, Sasha, who also attended Parkside. So there was like a core group of us meeting at each other's, like in our dorms and or wherever, dissecting each other's poetry and just getting better and getting stronger. And then having opportunities to perform throughout the campus. So if they had like the high schoolers coming to visit, I'm like, well, I have math class at this time, but there's three of y'all I know that could do a dope poem for these high schoolers and then just report back. So we were jamming on a Monday, but we're really preparing for like getting launched out, whenever they need it. So they knew they could count on us. And so that's really what kind of fueled it. And then when I left Parkside in 2009 and started going to UWM, I got hooked up on Poetry Unplugged, that was hosted by Kwabena Anton Nixon, and on Tuesday nights. And I found out that people were actually leaving campus on Tuesday nights to go to Poetry Unplugged. Like, how come nobody told me about PU? what's going on here? But I got connected to some one of the most amazing wordsmiths in the city, in this city has ever known. And I'm not going to run down my list because it's ridiculous. But it was there, just came to show love with my sis MVP, and then eventually I started performing. And you always get those nerves and those, kind of like if people feeling it or whatever. But I just kept going and growing, and then finding my own kind of family base. With there was a group we was part of called the Nation. Shout out to the Nation. So when we were coming, performing, getting better on Wednesdays, we would have Ajamu would do wordplay Wednesdays online, and we would. So some of our best pieces have come from a wordplay Wednesday. So like I just kept growing and developing. We would call each other and be like, "Hey, I got this new piece. Can can I let you hear it?" And so Parkside stemmed that from me. So I was grateful to be part of an organization and then be part of just these amazing group of people who outside of their major were just like some dope creatives, and we bonded and learned from each other. And a lot of them don't do it professionally like I do, but they have the skill set to do it professionally just like I do. And so anytime that they decide to ever share, I'm calling y'all out, whoever you know who you are. The world it probably will never be ready, but it's time that you guys share those wonderful gifts that you have.
So it's so underrated that, for example, people who love music, it can vary differently when it comes to something like poetry, right? Some people, they look at someone like Tupac. He was, he, even though he was a rapper, he's hip hop head, hip hop guy. Uh, you know, his being started with him being a poet, just like many others. And you look at even now people like Wale and things like that. Who do you who is your go-to when it comes to that? Anytime you see their craft posted or the things they say, I know you probably have a bunch of people, but like someone that it it inspires you, make you feel good about yourself, that when you see them doing well, it inspires you to keep doing, moving forward, because when they win, you win.
Oh, I mean, I have a whole bunch, but there's only one person initially that comes to mind, and that is my sis, Dina Dean from Chicago. That woman, fire, fire wordsmith. Like, she's literally one of my favorite scribes ever. And I'm so happy to have the relationship that I do with her. Every time she posts, and I could hear her voice. And so sometimes like if she send me something in inbox, I'm like, I'm gonna need you to record that. Like, so I can read it while I'm listening to you. Like I need it. And when I was hosting, I used to host a open mic called Pentastic, and one of our anniversary shows, she was one of the features. And it's like, no, we got to get you here. We got to have you here. And they needed to know why, because I met her at PU. But I was, when we had one of our anniversary shows a few years back, I was like, yeah, y'all not ready for this. But anytime she posts and she'll tag me to it, I catch all the feels. Like I can feel her whole heart in everything that she writes. Like that's just a genuine ass scribe right there. And she's truly one of my favorites. She's so authentic. It's raw. It's real. It's in your face. She's like in the way she delivered. Like you get excited when you read it, but you ain't experienced nothing until you've seen her actually spit it. Like it's like a punch in your face. And I just, yeah, like there's a whole list, but she's the first person that comes to mind when I think of that.
Do you have specific goals and things that you want to do for yourself and the people around you when it comes to poetry?
Uh, yeah. It's the same principles when I was hosting Fantastic. And it wasn't your typical open mic. Is basically to build, heal, and cultivate. So we're building, growing this dope ass village, this community. We are healing with these words. You know, somebody gets on stage or whatever platform and they start spilling their hearts, and they're very vulnerable. The least you can do is take the time to stop what you're doing and listen, and then realize that you're not the only person who feels that way in this world. We make connect. We do that to bring forth connection. Like, wow, I thought that was just me, or who have you been in my dear diary? Like, was you there last night when I was sending my prayers up? Like, we use those things to connect. Um, and it's not to just share trauma, but we're sharing our triumphs. You know what I'm saying? Like, I find some failures in those lines, but I've also found some learning and growing in those same lines, and cultivate, working at your craft, working at your gift. I'm not the same uh, creative that I was even 7 years ago. I'm not the same creative I was a year ago. You know, um, we're always should be pushing towards uh, evolving, and for ourselves first, not for the claps and applause of men. It's not about that. Excuse me. If nobody else clapped for you or hit a like or reaction button, you got to know that what you wrote was real and worth the read or worth being listened to. And so one of those main goals is just finding value in your own voice, to not get drowned out by anybody else. I don't want somebody telling me, oh, you sound just like, or you remind me of, because then I lose my identity. You keep stripping me of my identity. I never want people to forget that they see Brit. But then I have people coming up to me saying, can you teach me how to write like you? No, because I don't want you to write like me. You shouldn't, we don't need another Brit Nicole. I need you to value your own voice. And so that's going to take, that's some internal work either. Like we can write lines all day. We can do whatever. But what does it matter if you don't even like what you wrote down? What does all that mean? And so um, keep finding that value, and keeping that value is important, because you have to know that you matter even when you put the pen down. If nobody ever wrote again, because you exist, you matter. And I think that's what separated us, our open mic, or even when I was on campus, because a lot of people will like you and interact with you on condition. As long as you keep coming to my events and my, whatever, for activities when it comes down to campus, led things, I will involve myself with you. But once you stop because, you need to focus on school or whatever, or life is happening, and I don't mess with you no more. You want to be places where you are celebrated and not tolerated. And so those are my goals, is when it comes to writing, and that one person you can heal and change. You can change the world with one person, you know, uh, and you can make an impact, with just one line or just one word. Like, you don't have to be this major thing. And who said that was the top tier? So yeah, that's just it. When people find value in their voice, they're a force to be reckoned with, and it's beautiful to see them blossom like that.
So people who, are writers of any types, journalists, artists, poets, um, anything when it comes to creativity, people have their writer's block. They seek um, a way to try to express themselves, and sometimes they want, like, what has been a challenge for you. For example, you look at recent events. You look at, and for people who look directly like us, we have every reason to express some of the most like angry, frustrated, powerful words, but it's this thing in the back of your mind that you want to be careful, because how things can be viewed or interpreted, and even deep down inside you don't care, because you're trying to get a message across. You want people to understand what you're trying to say, but in the same breath, you don't want to go out of character. Um, what's been the biggest challenges? It's a twofold. So, what's been the biggest? Well, mainly, what's been the biggest challenge about writing in general, and then the challenge when it comes to writing at a time where you need to just let loose in what you want to say.
Okay, so first part, the biggest challenge in writing is just writing when I feel like it. Because if we only do things when we feel like it, it'll never get done. Um, and so having to push myself to write, that's why I love the Dirty 30. Even some, I've only been successful like maybe twice. Sometimes you stop at day 7. Some people stop at day 2. Some people get all the way down to the 30th day or whatever. But to always keep writing, even if it's like crap to you, we're just flexing our pens. It didn't say you was going to publish it. It didn't say, you don't have to share with anyone. It's just to flex your skills. But then when I'm talking to I could be talking to someone and all of a sudden I'm inspired, or I see a movie, you know, and it's just like poetry just hitting me. So I have my phone out and I'm just kind of like, oh my God, like this is, um, that is everything right now. So it's just the biggest challenge is just like doing something like when I feel like it, or when I've been frustrated because I didn't think that enough people were showing support, and wanting to just give up. I wanted to, like Fantastic is still going virtually. And it'll be 7 years old at the end of October. I was the host for the first 4 years, 4-ish years. And there's times I just wanted to let it go every step of the way. Like, no, like, people don't deserve to like bump this. I don't even want to do this anymore. People say they're coming and then they don't show up or whatever. But I even said out my own mouth, we said whether 3 or 300, the poets are going in. So if it's just 3 of you, we're going to give you the quality of us. If it's 300, we're going to give you the quality of us. And we get so hell bent on those numbers and people in your head, and you in your own head, that you're missing it. Those who are there are purpose. So you better give them the goods that while they're there, or you have literally just wasted both your time and their time. And so pushing past those barriers has been a challenge, uh loving challenge, but nevertheless. And then just writing to get stronger as a writer, and not just like, oh, I feel like writing one line. And sometimes you might just get one line and you might not get some inspired 6 months from now. That one line ties into whatever you're doing. It's just like that. Second part, I feel like a bottled up soda, bottled up 2-liter soda. I have a lot of thoughts and feelings or whatever, but I've been writing these things. The climate that we're in, I have poems that fit exactly this that I wrote years ago. I had something that I wrote when we had all that stuff that happened at Sherman Park, and I remember I had to perform for a show called Strange Fruit. And I wrote that poem at a Starbucks with a friend of mine and didn't know why I was writing it at the time. And I had to go up here and perform this actually in a group that was majority of the audience was white. And it's like, I could say these things and spit this truth, and you're going to just think, oh my God, this is just a good poem. And you're still not getting it, and that's what's frustrating. It's a beautiful thing to know that you'll always stay relevant to some degree. But the fact that we have to keep writing about the same stuff, that we have to write about Black lives mattering and that they've been mattering, or, about violence against women is wrong, or why you should have to love yourself when the world's not going to love you, just, it becomes exhausting. When can I write something new? When, we write, I'm sorry, I can't speak for the majority. I write to change the narrative. And it just feels defeating when the narrative hasn't changed. Because I can't write past this, because we have to stay right here 3 years later, because we still got to put this message out. It's like a preacher having to preach the same word, around the same time or whatever, and just be like, I need something else. But you got to keep doing it because they still don't get it. Somebody still needs to hear it. And if anyone is going to get that message out, because we're messengers, it's going to be you. So
Yeah, it's interesting you say that because with the death um, of John Lewis, somebody I like to listen to. He's someone I aspire and listen to from a broadcast standpoint, journalist, sports writer. But his perspective on everything just totally different levels because both of his parents were part of the civil rights movement, right? And something that he was mentioning about the death of John Lewis and how, you have a lot of people who, doing, the politicians is doing those fake, posts about John Lewis and impact. These same people that more likely was against him or is not doing what John Lewis has been trying to get a message for the last 60 years. And he was talking about how he was one of the speakers during the march,
mm-hmm.
and they had to edit his speech because, like, the words and the things he was saying was so hard hitting, and even the things he was saying was so, like, I know everyone. For me, I know, like, the "I Had a Dream" speech is huge. I'm a person where I love Martin's last speech before he passed. Shout out to because I was there. But it's someone like John Lewis. The words are so powerful, and it, like, I'll probably send to you, and because I can't remember everything, but it's crazy. Even you say talking about 3 years, imagine 60 years. You did something at the age of 20, and you 80 years old, 79, 80 years old before you pass, and it's rinse and repeat type thing. So let's talk about Milwaukee. So I was born in Milwaukee, St. Joseph's Hospital, Razor Rule. Shout out to St. Joseph, whatever. Grew up on
I
39th
thought I was
Street.
born there.
You thought?
I thought like literally for the like up until age of 30, my dad told me that I was born at St. Mary's. I dead ass thought I was born at St. Joseph for the longest.
Oh yeah, yeah, man. And
Okay.
so grew up on 39th Street, lived in different parts of areas, things like that. But that's a home base. And my relationship in Milwaukee, when I left, my mom moved to. We lived in Rockford for like a year in fourth grade, but that was just random. But my mom moved to Madison, Wisconsin, when I was in middle school, late middle school years, and the times I spent in Madison, was able to graduate high school. Before I went to Parkside, I tried to avoid Milwaukee. Um, and it's weird when I hear people that I, know, and people like, even friends like, oh, I like Milwaukee, depending where you live. Milwaukee's one of those depending where you live type things. Like, I love Milwaukee. Yeah, if you live in the Menominee Falls, probably, or Germantown, but not
Oh,
directly
wow.
Milwaukee. I always tell people I'm the same way with Texas. I have like a hate relationship with these places, right? But what's your view of Milwaukee? Because obviously there are a lot of people, and I wish some of the things that I've done here, that I've tried to make an impact. I wish that I was kind of doing that in Milwaukee because it would be a lot more meaningful because that's where I'm from. Even though I don't have this obsession to represent, like, down here in Texas, oh, they love Texas. For me, it don't really matter. Like, it doesn't matter where I live. If I feel like it's trash, it's trash. But what is your relationship and your view and the things that that have you stayed in Milwaukee and doing things you've been involved in some things that really help Milwaukee push forward from a social standpoint, even though there are a lot of other things that's still going on in the city. So, what's your relationship with Milwaukee?
My relationship with Milwaukee is I love it, but I hated it for a long time. So when I was attending Parkside, um, and I got my job at with COA at Camp Helen Brockman, like I was like, oh, I only got to stay in the city for like a few weeks, and then I'm gone for like 2 months, and then I just had to come back for another couple of weeks, and then I'm back on campus. Like I try to avoid it at all costs. You get overwhelmed and burdened down by the statistics and by this, that. Um, and I was hell bent on just like I said I was just gonna graduate from Parkside. I was gonna stay in either Kenosha or Racine, or move away. Like, I'm not gonna deal with this. And I just kind of heard a voice inside was like, well, if you don't like it so much, then why don't you change it? And I was just like, why me? Like, why do I have to be the one to change it?
Yeah,
There's no hope for this city. But there's nothing but hope for the city because we have some amazing people who are doing a tremendous work, and the needle is just pushed slowly. I know for a fact. And what we see as far as was, statistics and numbers are like years within each other, like 2 or 3 years old when things get actually like put out. Some things are more recent, but more so, they're behind. Um, it wasn't until I took a summer class at UWM called the Milwaukee Community, that I learned to really love and appreciate this city that I, been graced, purpose to be born in and raised by. And so 4 weeks. They had this book that didn't really have any pictures at all in it about Milwaukee's beginnings. A lot of information. So I live on the Lower East Side, I guess Team Bougie, whatever. But when you see, like, when you read upon like how it was before, like you see businesses and restaurants and things, but those were homes. And families lived there, and all kind of other stuff, like how the settlers, were. The history of Bronzeville for real, where blacks were just kind of concentrated in this area. And it was like, okay, we're gonna build what we got. Y'all don't want us to go nowhere else. I mean, redlining was, we still deal with redlining now, but it was way worse back then. Um, it just I developed an appreciation for the city that I lived in, and realized that if I'm here, if I believe that there's good, then that means that there's good in me, and I'm doing the work, that means I'm going to connect myself to more people doing that work. And, this is, I mean, I've written a couple of pieces dedicated to Milwaukee. I think one of them, it can be found in my book that's going to be dropping soon. And so it's just like a look, like it's called Milwaukee Beautiful. And my girl, shout out to Amanda Avalos, Public Allies, Milwaukee alumni. Shout out to all Public Allies. Um, Started taking these wonderful pictures around the city and just kind of like tagging it Milwaukee Beautiful. And like what you might think is not, we're it's, Milwaukee is like a diamond in the rough, but a diamond in the rough is still a diamond. Just because you can't see it or appreciate it for the stage that it's in, and because you can't see it as more, doesn't diminish its value. It's just that you need to be looking through a different lens, and I needed to look through a different lens for a long time. I absolutely love Milwaukee. We have some of the best festivals. Some of the, like I said, some of the like best people are from here. We're very friendly. People have been very friendly to me. um, I believe in the progression that we have. Now we still have a long ways to go, like any other city. And there are things, there's things that are happening that you just, you can find yourself just feeling very defeated. But we don't give up on ours. This city, like Milwaukee, belongs to us, so we don't give up on it because she ain't giving up on us. So, yeah, I and of course I label Milwaukee as a woman, right? Like, I love her. I love you, girl. So that's how. Yeah.
so you're better than I am in so many different ways.
Why? What?
It's
What
in
is that?
my, I guess. So I guess my appreciation of Milwaukee has changed over time. So because for example, I live in a city that's 6 times bigger than Milwaukee, and I still think it's trash. So, I don't think any place would make me happy, but it all depends what I'm doing and what I have going on in my life to change all of that, right? And so that's the perspective I'll always keep. I could talk about Houston and the traffic and everything's far. I don't think it'd be any different if I was living out in LA and Blue was out there and I'd be with my goddaughter and be with Blue Isaac and his kids. And, it'd be, so it doesn't matter. But I think, when I left 10 years ago, it was much needed. it's not like I really liked Houston. My mom just happened to be down here. She actually moved down here around the time Katrina happened. It was '05 because I graduated '05. You graduated '05 too, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that was around there, and then I went to Parkside. I came down to visit winter break, and then the summer of '06. And I really didn't like it. I came down here, did some volunteer on the north side. They had a lot of kids who came from New Orleans, a lot of kids who lived certain parts of Houston at this resource center. And I was just trying to make a little money at this. And anyway, so my outlook on Milwaukee is a bit different. But when I moved here, it was like, okay, it was much needed. It was nice to go back and visit family and friends. I've always said I wish I could take my family and friends and remove them from the city into a place I actually like going to. That'd be easier. But I guess what was interesting is the last couple of years I've been to Milwaukee, and maybe because my mom had like a small place out in Cudahy, ducked off. So if I go see everybody, when I'm done with my day, I just hit that little highway on the side by Lake Michigan, just go right out by Cudahy, this little place, compared to, when I have to go up and down Hampton to see my family, what I'm saying? 'Cause when you drive down Hampton, forget the roads. It's just, that's a little racetrack alone, but, so my appreciation has changed based off the people, and I also see the change in the city. Unfortunately, the change in the city is not in the areas that I hoped, because you can see the expansion of the city, in West Dallas with the highway. You can see it on the east side of town. You can see the Bucks new stadium. You can see Marquette. You can see all these different places, and everything north side, you still feel like, man, even my neighborhood, it was, I tell people my neighborhood was fucked up 30 years ago, it's fucked up now, right? It just really sucks. But I'm glad that, even talking to you, to still have optimism about the city, uh, it's honorable. Like, I enjoy it. I like to see that. I don't think I'll ever move back. I'd probably be in Madison, or but because that Madison, just I feel like Madison kind of is weird, because it's not like I was involved in anything dangerous. I really felt like Madison saved my life.
Okay.
Um, and so I think that's why. Um, but with going from Madison, then going to Parkside, and then being back in Milwaukee, I didn't think I was going to be back. And so, when I left, just like, okay, I've spent probably out of, I'm 33 now, it's been weird. I've been here for 10 years. That's crazy. I take at
And you don't
least,
like it? You don't care for it much?
well, okay. So I think this is my issue anywhere I go. And you probably have faced the same things, is when you become involved with a lot of things, you learn so many things, what's under the surface, that others just they have the ability to live their life, right? If anyone live in Houston, man, you always got somewhere to go. It's always somewhere to eat. It's just places to kick it. You can compared to even a city like Milwaukee, it's so much to do. It almost feels unlimited, right? But I used to organize. I used to be involved in the food and bev industry when it comes to creating and building unions, changing the narrative of how Texas functions as a state when it comes to the politics, when it comes to the everyday living, right? So there's a lot of pride and arrogance of the love people have here. I understand that. But the way I view it is this: you're having a city that pretty much had to grow on the fly because so many people are moving here. But the jobs don't pay as well, even though the city is trying to compete with the Chicago's, New York's, and LA, which means you can still live off the narrative like the cost of living is lower, but you're still fighting for people not being paid well. The mentality that it's so many different things on the surface that I decided to involve myself with, because like you said, when you're surrounded by something, it's like, well, maybe I should contribute and make it better. And I've I've went knee deep to involve myself in so many things. So if I'm talking to somebody that kind of just enjoy everything on the surface, I understand. Same thing like Milwaukee. But it takes, when you're involved in things, when you are doing things to change the infrastructure of a city, the way it functions, the way people think, it wear and tears you. Plus the traffic is trash and people can't drive. But so I think that's pretty much been my thing anywhere I've been. And obviously, maybe this is just growing up thinking that, you know, people you learn the hard way that one person can't change the world. I feel like people can still change the surroundings around them. You can still make an impact any room you walk into. So I think that's why my view is it's different. It's almost from a it's not damaged. Like, I'm not defeated or anything. I think it's just one of those, like, you've been burned and realize, like, yo, man, you can only do so much, and then hopefully you just do what you can and then figure out from there. um I just got a couple more. So you okay, it's as a young black
Thank you.
woman who, you talked about this last time. People have this weird thing of, okay, you're in your 30s. Oh, you don't have this. You don't have that. You're trying to figure out, you're still doing things for yourself, figuring out yourself, but now you have to figure out the dating scene. You're trying to figure out the things of your future. Like, what, what's been one thing from kind of wrap around where the base of your upbringing, what keeps you grounded to make sure that everything you're doing, what you're doing, and you're not compromising that because people just have this weird expectation that you should be doing this by now or doing that by
Um, 2 words. Fuck tradition. This is just, I mean, if this was a different time period and me being 33 and not wed or whatever, they harp on that and call you like a borderline spinster or all kind of other things. And it's like, you know, and I said in one of our last interactions, a lot of women were being groomed and ready to be um, needed and taking these roles as, wife, mother, homemaker, whatever, is, and I think about some of those older women who spouses have passed on and they finally, at the age of 60 or whatever, went to get a college degree, started doing things that like really exploring their own interests. And I'm happy to be in a space where I'm still like, I know what I like and I'm finding out more things that I like, but I don't have to put that stuff on hold to be like, oh, let me be a wife to someone, let me be a mother to someone. um that will come when it comes, like it's just, I just think that we just harp on that stuff way too much. Like, I'm chilling, I'm living, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm just, let me just pay this bill and take a quick little trip out to Chicago and just figure out life. Like, you know, we're all wired different. I at some point I'll probably be there, but I don't think that there's something wrong with not being there. So, and from what I've been shown on both sides of my family, I mean, marriage looks kind of like a joke. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just, and I'm not jumping head first to get into it right now. You know, I can't see that far. I gotta, we gotta get through texting, and I gotta hang out with you physically like once to see if I even want to be in your presence again. I can't. I'm not gonna be like, oh my God, he's the one. That's not. That doesn't make sense at all. I'm not. I'm also not completely looking for the exit sign. I'm just looking for a reason to stick around. So, um, I just. I like to think of it like when the guys talk about, I ain't got time for no relationship. I'm working on my rap career. It's like, yeah, I'm like working on my rap career, like there's no rap career. But just like, focus, those things will be added. Like, I know that I'm gonna make someone a really great partner and someone's gonna be a great partner for me. I have no doubt in my mind about that. But what I learned from my experiences, when I used to be fixated on it and harp on it so much, it didn't bring me any closer to it or closer to the relationship that I wanted. And that means I was starting to settle and just, it's just like, No, I'm single by choice. I don't have to be a pick me or anything like that. Like holding down your own. It doesn't it doesn't have to be one or the other. Like it just comes when it comes when it comes. And so that's how I see that. Dating is ghetto. It's, it's real
So
ghetto.
yeah, I agree because I tell people all the time, relationships are overrated. I
I
think
mean,
the notion of how and the reason why I say it's overrated is think about a job, right? You have your job. Imagine you working a job you've always wanted to do, and you will do everything for that job to keep that job. They're not willing to lose that job, right? And so, but imagine you work the job you finally always wanted, and then you start coming in late. You start fucking up at your job, doing things, and then you'd be surprised you get fired from your job. I feel like for some odd reason people do that with jobs, and when it comes to relationships, it's like the total opposite, and it's based out of people do things because of it's like you use the excuse of love. Like I think that a lot of things that people do, I don't think they would do at their job they've always wanted. So why do people have the person in life they've always wished they had and these things they ask for, and they'll do things they're willing to jeopardize that? Right? I don't believe in the idea. I don't believe in the term "you don't know what you had until it's gone." My question is, what was you doing when you had it? Right? It's just one of those things that I've always looked at. And yeah, girl, do your thing because this shit's trash out here. People ain't shit. You know what I'm saying? No, but yeah. And so, just real quick, 1 or 2 minutes. Um, you already have yourself as a base of who you are. What are your expectations for everything around you? Like, what what are your expectations for every room you walk in, person you meet, friends, future relationship, even the people that you're fighting against, the people who are against things like racism, the people who are against the freedom and the ability to be a powerful voice in Black women. Like, what are your expectations of those people? Just one or
my
2 minutes of
uh
that.
my expectation is that people just stay authentic. I mean, if you're gonna be a racist, don't half-ass it. Just what I'm saying, you ain't got to be closeted about it. We don't need to keep me as a friend. Just own it. So I know how to maneuver. I
Yeah,
think people just need to be their authentic selves. Present that, and then however that's received, don't be who you think I want you to be. Be who you are, and then I will decipher like, oh, is this the kind of person that I want in my life or whatever. And if it is, great. And if it's not, great. Why I'm no one's holy grail. You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
Like, because Brit is in your life, who cares? Who cares? I mean, people care about this is not diminishing those who care about having me in their life, but it's just saying like,
nah, fuck them. I feel you.
you know what I'm saying? Like I'm one person. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Like it's not that deep. And so but I just want people to just stay authentic. We have changed ourselves so much for all types of relationships, personal, intimate, personal, business. I can't stand business casual, which means I probably can't stand business professional.
yeah,
Being in said spaces, that if that was what I needed to have on, because of the environment I was in, I'm not gonna be walking in here with my dope ass t-shirts and my jeans or whatever. This is what you signed up for, business
uh-huh.
casual. Excuse me. Until you find yourself in a different space where you can do that all the time, this is what And then when you don't want to do it no more, you leave, you move on. And that's just how that is. We've modified ourselves for significant others, or who we thought were significant others at the time, to realize. And people say, I lost myself trying to be what somebody else wanted. People have, a lot of people have that same story. And then
Yeah,
eventually it's like, you're going to take me as I am for real. Doesn't mean that you still ain't got that work to do. Now you still got that work. Now sometimes people use those experiences and be like, I'm about to just be here, you can't change me, you can't whatever. And like, all right, I ain't nobody trying to change you. You should really try to change yourself, because gee, you ain't there. Like,
yeah,
think you there, but you're just molding yourself from some hurt, you know, from something that went awry, but there's better and more inside of you. And I think it's about the company you keep too. If I mean, it's just the classic chicken and the eagle. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can stay in the coop and be cool with that coop, and that's fine. Your peoples can all be there, whatever. But as soon as you try to elevate, oh, you think you better than somebody, whatever. Like, eagles go solo. You know, they upward and onward. You know, but at any time the eagle could turn into the chicken and the chicken could turn into the eagle. Like it's what you want to, you know, do. But we have modified ourselves so much to be what somebody want. You know, I have seen it. I have done it. I have seen it, you know, done, you know, to me, and I'm just kind of like, no, just be who you are. Um, I think a lot of people, in my experience, has allowed themselves to be authentic and they didn't realize they were doing it. It's like, you know, it's like the child in the back seat, you know, jamming or whatever, you know, all that kind of stuff. But as soon as you put the camera on them, they go,
Yeah, exactly.
and they like,
Yes. Yes.
like you caught me, and I was joyful, and I was just in my mode. But now all of a sudden, there's eyes on me. Whoa, I got to put my mask on. You know, um, no pun intended, given the situation that we're in now. But putting those masks on and forgetting what we really look like because we're doing this and changing faces just to survive. And I cannot wait for us to finally elevate out of survival mode and truly thrive in our you know in our true selves. Um, because there's so many people who will like you just for you. You don't have to do anything except be yourself. It's easier said than done, but
Yeah.
it's doable. You gotta take a chance on you, you know. So um yeah, that's
Well,
yeah.
appreciate you. And thank you for letting me do this with you. And yeah, we're gonna chop it
Thank
up.
you.
You know what I'm saying? And yeah, I know. I know it's very, you know, personable, not too goofy, but I really was interested just in your story and just, you know, I found this dope. So thank you once again.
Well, thank you for having me as usual.
All right, I'll holler at your boy.
All right, have a good one.
Holla.